So we're back, everybody. We're so glad to be here, especially with my darling, really long-term friend of 50 years, Erin Somerville. How you doing?
Hi, really happy to be here with you in Kauai.
We've been having such a great time, just hanging out, you know, talking about life. And I wanted to have Erin, Dorothy and I both wanted to have Erin on our show for so long. And this is the first time we've been together in, what, 10 years or something, so that we could really do this for you. And it's just such a delight, such a delight. And it's an honor too. It's funny to say that about a really great friend, that it's an honor, but it's an honor. Erin and I met, what, 50 years ago at Stanford, where I was the secretary in the English department and Erin was in modern thought and literature. But we both had these secret ambitions. I was a poet, Erin was an actress. And damn if she didn't get every role she tried out for. And just was brilliant. And I just fell in love with her immediately when I met her. And we hung out, we had a great time. And we were kind of hippies and we were kind of wild girls and we were pretty wild.
When you say kind of hippies, what does that mean exactly?
Well, you know, kind of bohemian, into, you know, poetry and jazz and
we knew we didn't belong long-term in that institution.
That's right. And everybody was drawn to us because we were kind of there and kind of not there.
And I think you always brought so much light and laughter.
So did you.
Your desk was always surrounded by so many people.
Well, and we were with the cream of the crop of Stanford. And we didn't give a doo-doo.
No,
we were like, they're just dudes.
You cleaned that. You cleaned those words up.
I did very quickly. But you know, one of the things that Erin and I really I think we just bonded so deeply on it. So we both had very mystical backgrounds. Nobody was talking about it at the time except for us, and we were gabbing, and giving each other tarot readings before anybody was talking about any of this stuff, or people we knew.
Yeah,
because we were in Palo Alto, California, in a scholastic atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So we'd have these great long readings in between getting loaded and, you know.
And writing books.
And writing books, right? And giving poetry readings and being and all kinds of theater
and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it was just the most amazing time. And I just treasure it. And Erin went on to have the most interesting and provocative time. I mean, you've just kind of done it all. You took your mystical leanings and have really carved a niche for yourself in the world that nobody else has. It's really amazing what's happened.
Yeah, and I don't feel like I carved it in a way. It just sort of carved me.
Yeah.
Because you knowing me for 50 years, the role that I'm in now, I never ever dreamt of doing. Never really wanted to work in a hospital or in medicine. That was not, you know, I was in theater and having fun.
Right.
And when I look at where I am, that's when I know one of my beliefs is that your life is a divine plan and it is guided by a divine hand. And that's the only way that I know that I arrived here. And maybe a lot of people feel that too, you know. You know that saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Right, exactly.
I think God is howling.
I'm like with Erin.
That I had these plans, and then, oh no, we've got, you're going to be surprised. Now, I have to say that I do believe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Good.
And I guess that's the most important
Well, let's
thing.
talk about where she is and what you've come through. I mean, you left the English department in drama. Yeah, and then one day you're off on Alpine Road in Palo Alto, and you come by this building and you're drawn to
No, okay, but it was really, you know, after I left Stanford, I did a lot of Kelly Girl work, which was not great. And I drove the 101 every day going to Acme or IBM. And I said to my boyfriend at the time, I want to drive a country road. I want to have an office out in the woods, and I want to have deer out my window. And a few months later, there I was,
Yep.
driving a country road, deer out the window, and it was my destiny to work at this place. So I was supposed to be there for like 4 days. And that ended up being 15 years of my life.
Wow.
Developing that
Wow.
program.
That's right.
And
Which was called,
which was called The Healing Power of Laughter and Play,
which toured all over.
which was
most
birthed in,
successful conference ever.
1980.
Yep.
And it went all over the United States and Canada.
Who were you
And
working with at that time?
I was working what was called the Institute for the Advancement of Human Behavior.
Yes.
Yay.
Uh-huh.
And they were that was the company in Portola Valley. They were doing lots of things on the mind with Buckminster Fuller and William Kroger
Okay,
and
that's
all
right.
very
Exactly.
intellectual people. And when they started talking about this conference, I was only supposed to be there for a few days, but I was in theater.
Mhm.
I said, you can't just have everybody standing up there like William Fry, who came dressed in a black turtleneck sweater and suit. Now this is what joy is. You had to, the science, let's face it. So I said, we had to have comedians. And that's where Steve Allen said Caesar that I
Yeah.
brought in. We have to have fun. We have to have clowns. We have to have balloons. We have to teach people to juggle. And
Yeah.
they said, we want you to stay.
Because
And
you're
that's-
fun.
Because they got it. It's all about emotion. As you know, healing is all about the emotion of joy,
Yeah.
love, happiness, laughter.
Well, that's what causes healing.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Right.
so to try and make it like so often in medicine, that to take the emotion out of it, which is what really happens, it's to
Mhm.
leave that.
Mhm.
That's why the
Mhm.
healing, I
Yeah.
think, of cancer patients has not accelerated to the point where it could be. As you know, Dorothy, in your
Absolutely.
work, and you do too, Simone, because they look now at your blood, they look at this, they look at the millions of people and say, this is for you. And so William Osler, one of my heroes, said, do not tell me about the illness the patient has. Tell me about the patient that has the illness.
Right.
Oh, cool.
So that, and he was one of the founders of Johns Hopkins and Knighted, and
Right.
a brilliant man. And he knew you can't look at everybody individually. What is their joy, their love, their balance? That's how we heal. And then medicine is this adjunct thing that we give, to help them.
That's exactly right.
But
yeah.
it's not it's the medicine of the heart. And that's what led me along this path, was kind of knowing that, coming in, kind of knowing that.
So you turned the world on to healing through fun and through enlightenment and through joy and through,
I connected to that world
you know,
in the way that I think our ancestors and tribal people, when people are sick, they have dances and they give them massages and they make them laugh. So
right.
I think I was just saying that our modern allopathic medicine, Hippocrates knew it was the vital energy of the body that got people well, their joy. Allopathic said, oh no, we heal them. We heal them with our medicine. And so that it's really the ancient roots of healing that we know, because when people would come, they could feel it. They say, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I was helping them reconnect with that. And that
Wonderful.
was really a privilege.
The
It
school
has
of
been a
remembering.
privilege.
You took them into the school of remembering.
That's, yeah,
That's really cool.
exactly.
So what is your title
Well,
now?
yes.
Is it
I'm
many years
officially,
went by?
I'm called the mind-body oncology coach, but I do want to say that the oncologists that I work with say, when we introduce you to the patients, we say we have a mind-body spirit.
So
oncology.
wonderful.
Oh, I just think that is
So wonderful.
Now, the hospital, I don't know, the greater, but the doctors, the oncologists can see the change. That people are not as afraid, number one. They do better in their chemotherapy.
Absolutely, they do.
They do better at just healing in general. And so they don't really understand what I do. And when I teach, I say to my class, the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You don't need to be out there.
I love it.
So what are you doing? You're in a hospital and you're talking about mysticism and healing and the divine.
I hope so.
Absolutely. And I don't want other people out there backing their truck over that. Do you know what I mean? These new beliefs are like little tender shoots.
Right.
And if you say that in people who are caught in the general looking, they, oh, well, sure. Well, that'll get you nowhere. You have to build your confidence enough so that when you get that backlash, as I have, you know, oh, you teach people about joy and happiness, and isn't that nice? And I say, do you know how courageous you have to be to move in that direction when facing death? I'm going to choose love and joy and happiness instead of fighting it, which that's a whole other thing.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, you have such an interesting life. Can you talk a little bit? You have such a complex professional life. You talk a little bit about what does a day in your life look like? Because you're in Long Beach General, right?
I'm at Long Beach Memorial Hospital. And they just, shortly after I arrived, they built the Todd Cancer Institute. And a day in my life is, you know, it starts out the usual of checking who's in the hospital, who's out, is there anybody, you know, all those things. But it's mostly that I teach a couple of classes about what I do. And then I work with people individually. And I just ask them, where are you at? How can I support you? What's going on? Because everyone is individual. So I've had other people say, well, what is your the way that you work? What is the clinical way? Give us the data. And I go, you know, how is it that people, you know, are drawn to this? I say, because I don't have a formula in a way that's standard. It's about meeting people where they are and being interested in them. What about you? Tell me about yourself. Do you have a cat? Do you have a dog? I love that because they go, oh yes, I have Misty, and Misty is really cute. And before you know it, they've shifted out of their anxiety of even speaking to me.
So good.
And now they're open to hear what I have to say. So you kind of have to open that door, and it's different for every person. And that's why I find when there are people that have, oh, this is how you do it, you put them in this box. I go, no.
We build rapport first.
You have to build that heart to heart. And I take great pride in being very silly and getting people to laugh and trying all of that, because then they start to do, it's all about what they do when they get their bodies start to, you know, the brain starts to pump out those wonderful neuropeptides and secrete all the oxytocin and the dopamine, and they do it. So I just kind of help them do that.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do?
I love to help people move out of fear into joy in life. Because I really believe the only reason we're here, that we're loving a temporary human body. And it's all about the discovery of that Dorothy. And when you meet people, it's really interesting. When they've been diagnosed with something like cancer, they're so afraid. And I even love, you know, to work with little animals who are afraid. We can relate to that, you know, as a kid. And so to find somebody who feels that shut down and afraid, and to see them open up and blossom in the midst of all that is so fulfilling. It's so joyful to be a part of that, to just walk alongside someone because I believe that illness, number one, is a blessing, because it will move you in the direction of your true nature.
Love it.
Which is love and joy and happiness. And that is the walk I want to take. And it's a privilege to do that every day because I feel like then I get to practice it.
And we remember why until I get going in the morning, either with a meditation or talking with a client, I'm just so up in here. And then I start doing the work and I come in and I know where I'm coming from. It's so totally different. I feel like it's not like being on a mission. It's just like you're on your path.
Yeah.
It's so different.
I think you used it is different, and you used a word that I often use when I'm working with clients. You know, I just wondered, because we hadn't talked about it,
Yeah,
but you used a word called privilege,
Yeah.
it is.
and it is a privilege, and when I'm working with someone, I thank them for allowing me to work with them,
Absolutely.
because it is an honor.
It is,
Mhm.
it is, and I, like, the three of us believe we're on these paths that are eternal. And we're always crisscrossing our lives. And when I work with a group, I say we're a temporary small tribe here for this class.
Lovely.
But it's no coincidence who's here.
I totally.
Each and every one of you has a message for the other. No one has more answers, certainly not me, or more wisdom or knowledge than what resides in you. And I feel like, so it's a gathering and coming together through time. Yeah, and it's so exciting because, you know, we mention the word tribe, then people kind of get it. Which is why I like to refer to that a lot, not religiously, but spiritually, because to go back to our tribal roots when we knew that God, Great Spirit, was in absolutely everything. It didn't have to have.
When there was no
church.
religion.
Yeah,
I'm-
just grace.
I'm curious how you feel, because I so respect the work that you're doing, and I want to learn. What role does nutrition and alternative healing have to do with healing cancer or healing anything, actually?
You know, that's really fascinating because nutrition is something that you can control in the physical body, and why I think it's important, and also people are drawn to it, is the one thing that can control is what's going into their mouth. I have seen people get well on macaroni and cheese and
Thank you.
grandma's cooking.
Yeah, I remember
You
once I
know-
called you about somebody that had cancer, and I said, should we ask that he stop eating blah, blah, blah? And you said, no, if he loves it.
I remember one from Google
Yeah,
who had pancreatic cancer, and he looked so thin and gaunt. He had lost so much weight. And I said, what are you eating? He said, well, I can't eat this and I can't eat that. But he had told me that his mother-in-law had come over from Turkey, and I said, so is she cooking? He says, oh, she makes all this great food. I said, well, why aren't you eating? Well, I'm not, you know, he started eating it, and within 2 weeks he put on 10 pounds.
Because there was love in the food.
There was love in the food, and he could feel alive. And so many people, when they get this illness, now, not that I think anybody should live on sugar, but sugar is in every tribal thing. They always have something sweet,
That's right.
you know, like ice cream. You need something sweet in life.
and a lot of.
And so if you cut out all the foods that you love, deprivation becomes your state of mind and emotion.
That's exactly.
And on deprivation, you cannot heal.
Yep.
Because it's a form of fear. I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. I just go follow your guidance of your own body. That's where I take people nutrition. What do you like? And pay attention to how you feel after you eat it. Your body, the wisdom of your body will help you to follow.
The wisdom of your body. There it is.
Yeah, it's all about the wisdom that's in the trees and all of, they know.
You know, the thing is that, and maybe we'll discuss this before, but what
Hold on for just a minute, let the truck pass. Kind of noisy out here for a minute, just a second.
God forbid my words should not be
I know,
broadcast.
very
But you think
important.
about the nutrition and what goes into your body. And not only what's going into our bodies nutritionally that we're eating, but nutritionally what we're thinking,
Right.
Exactly.
you know, and that's a nutrition as well.
Oh, that
Or
to
lack,
me
or
is
lack
the,
thereof.
yeah, okay.
Or lack thereof, yeah.
That, everything is the mind.
Think about this.
What?
When you're thinking about what you're doing in your head and deprivation, if I'm only worried about things, I'm depriving myself of love.
Absolutely.
I'm depriving myself.
You're
of-
abandoning yourself.
You
actually.
are.
Mhm.
That's right on.
Apparently, I'm not the first one who came up with.
Well, it fits, doesn't, love is everything.
Mhm.
It's the food you love, the
Yeah.
people that you love,
The words that you think.
the words that you think. I always say the voice in your head ought to be the voice of an angel, or the voice that you use when you talk to a little child that's afraid.
Or the voice of, when you're your own best friend,
Yes,
your best friend isn't going to put you down, isn't going to
Never.
tell you how awful you are.
well,
And
it
yet-
depends.
Well,
You're
pointing at her.
we're teasing. We're teasing, but that's kind of way in my way, I choose an angel
Mm,
in mind
That's good.
because they're always so present to
Right.
love.
mhm.
And it will always be gentle. And I'm just teasing, but human beings
No, I know.
are, they have their good days and their bad days. But to me, an angel is
I think of
always a
Mother
loving
Earth.
presence.
I say, what would Mother Earth?
Yeah,
How would
there you
Mother
go.
Earth talk
Yeah,
to
the
me?
divine, the voice of the
Yeah.
divine.
So it's the voice of meditation will never put you down.
Right. No, it won't.
No,
Your heart
but
will never.
but
tell
our
you.
own voice will.
And that to me is the ego.
Mhm.
I think there's
Let's
this
stick with
balance.
them.
Yeah, the balance between the heart and the brain.
Yes.
And now we know that the heart actually gives more messages to the brain, and there are actually brain cells in
Oh.
the heart.
Mhm.
They know about cells, brain cells.
And gut cells
Yeah,
in the brain.
yeah, and
microbiome.
that the heart is the first organ that develops in you when you're a baby,
That's-
not your brain, it's your heart.
That one cell goes boom.
Yeah. And so learning, I think it all comes back to that, just coming back to your heart and trusting, having trust and faith that everything you need to do
Mhm.
is really right here.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're working on a book,
I am indeed.
and you're pretty excited about it, and we're pretty excited about it.
Thank you.
Do we have a title yet?
Well, I go up and down about it. One that came to me, and it was years ago when I was with you in a bookstore. And I do have great belief that we are in a mystical world and a mystical journey, right? The whole universe. And I love this quote from Einstein, who said the most profound and beautiful emotion a human being can experience is the mystical.
Mhm.
It is the sower of all true science. I love that. The one who is a stranger to that emotion, who no longer can stand in awe, is as good as dead.
Oh,
Wow.
And I thought when you meet these people, oh, the mystical, all that, this world of matter and all of that
Yep.
is this tiny little portion. And you've got this miracle of the mystical happening all around you. And you are like this. You think, oh no, that's all make believe. That's oh my God. It's like you're playing marbles when you could be playing divine chess, you know, or something extraordinary.
Where's that
I
line
love
you
that.
used the other day about mastering life? Well, how did you say that? The mastery of
No,
life?
that was Jan.
That was
That was
Jan.
Jan. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I
She said
love
it's
that
not about mastering life, it's being with the mystery of
of
life.
life.
yeah. Being with the
Oh,
mystery of life. That is
I
so
love that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, so then I thought, I am the doubtful mystic. And I'll say that because, and we've talked a bit about doubt, is that there are days when you just know your divine presence. And then there are
It's true.
days when you just feel like, oh my God, nothing is going right. I didn't do anything right. I'm talking. I should have done this and I should have done that. And yet then the divine will just present you with something simple and beautiful that takes you back to your heart. It could be the bird that all of a sudden just lands there and looks at you and reminds you, or your kitty cat or your dog or a child. And then you go, of course, so I think we are all mystics, and many of us might doubt that. However, I think that's the doorway to healing, is the miracle of it, that we're all, we come into this world as a miracle. When people say, oh, miracle, every day is a miracle. Every breath you take, everything you see. So,
So is this book your journey, or what?
well, 18 years ago, I had a diagnosis, and I was in Canada, so they didn't have the test for the type of whatever I had. I had breast cancer, so I knew it was what it was. I was offered a lot of things. I really followed my own intuition when it came to what drugs I was going to take, and I didn't do most of that. So speed ahead almost 10 years, and I'm at the Todd Cancer Institute, and they look at what I've got, and he says, oh my God, you have this. And this really scares me. And you don't ever want your oncologist to say that.
Yeah.
And he says, well, you work here. We could get you this new chemotherapy. We could get you these new drugs for this. They've made such advancements. And then he stops himself and says, well, we don't know anybody who's still alive after 9 years with what you had.
Oh, thank you.
And I said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Now, this isn't to say that I don't believe that these drugs can play a really important part in people's healing. I think it's the way you believe and how you receive it. And it has to be without fear.
That's right.
My inner intuition, if I had taken chemo back then, none of those chemos worked on what I had. They didn't know that.
And they were a different chemo.
They were very different, and they actually didn't have anything that worked on what I had. It took another 8 or 10 years for my diagnosis to have a drug. So now people do have a chemotherapy that is helping them. But the last time I saw him, I said, well, if you look at my chart, you look at everything, what do you think? And he said, I don't have any explanations to why you're alive. The only word that comes to me is it's a miracle. And I thought, well, that's who we are. I'm no different. He said, maybe it's your beliefs, and maybe you did the right brain drink. I'm just,
The right magma.
I believe the right magma. I think it is. What I teach is follow what is right for you. People will say, well, what did you do? Did you take this drug? Did you do that? Did you do this? I said, if I told you, and then you thought, oh, well, she's still alive, I'll follow what she did. That's not the path. I'll tell you what I did. I did what I felt was right for me. And that's what I'm here to help you do. To go inside, follow your inner wisdom, just like these plants are flourishing on those things. But you look at the other plants over there, if they did the same thing, they wouldn't.
Exactly.
So it's such an individual journey. So I do talk about the fact that medical statistics, which so many people get told, oh, well, you look at this, you've got 10 years, you've got 5 years, you've got 2 years. To me, that's just really nonsense, and it's not helpful.
Well, not only that, how dare you?
And how dare you
tell me that?
Because that's fear.
That's right.
And so part of what I do is saying, this is the situation that I was in. I can tell you the ways and the beliefs that I developed that I feel and beliefs are everything. Believing that no matter how sick you are, you can get well. Believing that illness is a blessing, and moving in the direction of your true nature. Believing that love is central, loving what you love. Believing that it is not a war or a fight, but it is a gift to help you really become who you are. And so,
That's so important what you're saying, I think, the way you lead people, because maybe one of the reasons people get sick is they've lost themselves somewhere in some kind of emotion, and you're asking them to go back, to return to gather themselves and really listen to who they are.
yeah, I think that one of the central pieces of having a diagnosis is living a life that has not been authentic or true to who you are. That's very complex. To try and be who you are not. I'm gonna be this for them, I'm gonna be that, I'm gonna be this. And you have to come back, and this is hard for people because they say, well, that sounds so selfish to put myself first. Oh, I'm supposed to be taking care of everyone. I'm supposed to be last in line or ride in the back seat all the time. And I say, no, what brings you joy? Well, I know what my children, what my husband, what my da-da-da-da. No, you. And that takes a kind of deep courage, because when you go in to ask that question, you have to really go deep into who you are. And sometimes you have to meet with the parts that are difficult.
When people do that with me, I use the analogy of commercial airlines. What's one of the first things they tell you on the airline before you take off? About the oxygen.
Exactly. You have to put the mask on yourself before the little kid or granny, because you've got like 9 seconds to do that.
And if you don't, you can't take care of them.
Yeah, we're on board with this. I do.
Exactly.
You know, it's commonsensical in that metaphor. They can get it, but it can be so hard because the one thing that I seem to see a pattern of, especially with women, is that they're so used to going out there and they get accolades for doing all of this, and they're exhausted,
Overdoing.
And it's not unusual, you guys, for me to say, I want you to make a list of 5 things that bring you joy and fulfillment. And I always in class, almost always, there'll be one person who says, it's been so long, even if they're young.
Oh, I know that.
And I can't think of one thing. So that's a real clue.
It's a big clue.
Yeah. So it's that discovery.
Just out of curiosity, you work with so many people, and you have through the years. Is there a percentage of men to women who have cancer?
You know, that I don't have the statistics on that.
No, I mean, just what you work with. Do you
Who
think
I
it's
work
more
with?
women?
Oh, definitely.
That's what I thought.
Definitely, because women by nature are willing to seek out help. Men think, I have to do it myself. And if I have to ask for help, it means I'm weak. And they often don't go into those questions of what do you love and who do you love. That's a little bit harder. But once they start, there are always going to be some men in my class. And I always say, you're so brave, you know, to be all, but they love it.
Of course they do.
They love being around all that feminine energy.
Give them permission.
But most of the people that seek out, I find, are more women than men. How about you, Don?
Yeah, absolutely.
Me too.
You too? Yeah.
I do think also with catastrophic illnesses that I always think that the source of some catastrophic illness is some traumatic event or trauma, and the emotion of that starts it. But I think women, by and large, are more obviously more emotional, get into the emotions of despair, of shame, of guilt, and that can start it. I'm not saying that men don't feel that, but I don't think men are as in touch with their feelings.
No.
And it's hard for me to imagine a group of men.
Some men.
And it's hard for me sometimes to imagine a group of men drinking beer and saying, oh, gee, I'm feeling a deep emotion right now.
Like women
Who
would
wants to talk about they're whatever.
That'll be the day.
You know, it's the football and it's the this.
Yeah.
And so it's really cultural and, you know, so I have a lot of compassion for
Yeah,
that.
I do too.
There are some
Women
men
are
that can sit
comfortable
around and do
talking
that,
about their
let's be fair.
emotions. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I talked over you.
No, I said it, let's be fair, there are some men that can.
Oh,
my husband
totally.
can do that.
Absolutely.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And they do show up in our work, I'm
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're talking
Letting-
about the
I
majority.
didn't know if we were still on our work or in life. So,
Oh,
just in the.
I was just putting the
Oh,
two
okay.
of them together.
Yeah. I was just saying, I was just thinking all the men. going,
It
"Now,
all
wait a
just
minute."
blends together.
So I'm very excited for you in this book. I really am.
Yeah, I hope it will help a lot of people. Because I know that,
I don't think you have to worry for a second.
My question is, how close to the last chapter are you?
oh, that's a mean question.
No, it isn't.
Oh, you're there.
You know, it's interesting for me when I write this book, because then I'll have another class, then I'll meet somebody else, and then there'll be another process. And then it'll take me down another road. I'm on the road.
Okay.
It just seems to keep expanding and I go, oh my God,
But
what's
it's
around the
always
next
gonna do that,
corner?
But that's the next book.
That's true.
Mhm.
You've got a
That's
lot
true,
of books.
because there's all
girlfriend.
kinds of exciting things to talk about,
Yeah.
like the placebo, spontaneous healing that
absolutely.
happens,
Absolutely.
that you can't study a drug without studying against the person's placebo.
That's
And
right.
sometimes the person who takes the sugar tablet
It
gets
heals.
completely
Yeah,
well, and the
yeah,
other people. So it's such a miracle. It's a miraculous journey.
That's right.
So I want to say that Erin has one of the loveliest websites. Really beautiful. And that you can go to her website, especially for those of you that would like to do some private work with Erin. Woohoo!
It's been so much. I just want to say I have so much respect for you and you both. It's really a privilege and an honor to do something with these two
It's
women.
so fun.
Thank you.
It's a lot of love and I just feel very, very fortunate
Well, we're
to know
fortunate.
you both.
We're
I
fortunate.
want to thank you very much for allowing us the privilege
Oh,
of interviewing you.
thank you so much in this gorgeous
Stunning.
environment.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
See you soon.